Star Wars. It's a big thing. A huge Death Star-sized franchise which has permeated all manner of mediums in the public sphere. From lunchboxes to branded oranges. Okay, it's almost impossible to find an area which doesn't have George Lucas's frog-throated face on, or as it's more likely now, the ever-encroaching grip of the House of Mouse. And when it comes to video games, Star Wars bucks the usual trend of presenting paltry ports and Ewok-sized offerings, as within its library are some of the best experiences and examples of its universe. I mean, yeah, it's had some bad titles for sure, but we might just be saving that for another list, okay? With this in mind, I'm Jules for WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 of the best Star Wars video games. Number 10, LEGO Star Wars, the original trilogy. Yeah, that's right, a LEGO game is on the list, and yeah, I bloody love this collection of light-hearted, simple platform-based, kiddie-friendly joy. People thought that the crossover between this gooey, chewy franchise and this reputable choking hazard would never work. But this is now a series with more entries than a certain female member of your family. It proves that the Star Wars universe doesn't have to be covered in grit and angst to provide a truly impressive gameplay experience, and is filled with enough charm to give even Pixar a run for their money. Number 9, Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. Thanks to its outstanding cinematic to gameplay transitions and one of the best opening experiences in a Star Wars game, Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader was a title that really made the warring factions of Sony and Microsoft quiet down and take notice of Nintendo's pint-sized console. Piloting all manner of iconic spaceships and also a Buick for some reason, the gameplay of Rogue Squadron 2 is sublime, with controls smoother than a Twi'lek's backside and with more bite than a Rancor. It also includes one of the best set pieces involving an AT-AT's legs and a million feet of cable, which is arguably the best example of how to take down these super-sized space camels in any Star Wars game thus far. Number 8, Star Wars Republic Commando. Putting you in the little war booties of Delta Squad, Republic Commando sees you take this collective of colour-coordinated clones on covert missions which happen in the background of the second Star Wars prequel. The most prominent feature of this game is that the player is not simply a one-clone army, and instead has to rely on tactical use of the rest of the squad to succeed. If you barrel towards a spider droid alone, you're going to get put down like a Wookiee with rabies. Instead, you'll need to assign your squad to key strategic points in order to exploit enemy weaknesses. It's a fantastic way of not only making the player think, but also makes them care about the condition of the rest of the squad. Also a cheeky bonus point for having the visor wipe off blood and gunk. That is just neato. Number 7, Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. At first glance, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this was an Age of Empires clone, and you'd be right to think that seeing as it comes from the same developer. However, this game is packed with little tweaks and features which really make this title feel distinctly different to its lineage, allowing you to play as all your favourite factions like the Republic, the Rebel Alliance, Wookiees and Gungans. Great! You're tasked with base building and management alongside exploration and tactical combat. Battles range from skirmishes to full-scale assaults with large war machines clashing on foreign planets. And special classes like Jedis and heroes from the films give players access to a multitude of attack or defense options. Now, despite its familiar Age of Empires gameplay, this title pulls off an extremely unique feel thanks to its lovely presentation and sound design. It's an absolute blast, and before you say anything, I've not forgotten about the Empire at War games. I just love me some nostalgia, okay? Number 6, Star Wars Starfighter. With obvious roots in the X-Wing and Rogue Squadron series, Starfighter continued the trend of letting players pilot the most iconic ships from the Star Wars universe in awesome firefights. The difference between this and many other flight titles is that Starfighter proudly took its content from the prequels rather than from the originals. And while this might make you sick to your stomach, someone please stop this pun wagon I am in charge of, it actually turned out to be a really decent title. Gameplay was really satisfying, with every pop, zip and whiz of blaster fire and the likes of R2-D2 blipping away like a MIDI jazz saxophone, making you feel really connected to the battle. Now in Phantom Menace, when Anakin takes to the skies, it's a total cringe fest, but here at the helm of an N1 starfighter, taking apart an enemy fleet was every bit the laser light show it should have been. Number 5, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Back when Episode 1 was released and most people's collective dreams were crushed, there was one scene which managed to elicit the same response. That pod race was goddamn awesome! Also, f*** Jar Jar Binks! LucasArts too seemingly cottoned onto this idea, replicating the slick Wipeout-style race format which saw you strapping ridiculous-sized engines to sleds and then having a crack at each other. This game nails the sense of speed, almost mandated by this type of race, and thankfully the controls held up just as well. It's just a real shame that we don't have more pod racing games, as this one absolutely crushed it, and don't you dare bring up Super Bombard Racing, I will deny its existence until the day I die! Number 4, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Jedi Academy does not mess around when it comes to lightsaber combat. From the off, you're given the chance to cut down anything in your path like it was a class full of younglings. Flipping about while taking on an evil Sith jobber was an absolute joy, and using all manner of force powers and even blasters like a dirty smuggler allows for huge variance in how to approach combat. This idea of control continues into the player customization, as you're given a great deal of choice over how your Jedi is going to shape up. You can level force powers and weapon skills without having to fully commit to one side, meaning that you could be a light side affiliated Jedi who uses dark side powers, giving the impression of a grey area styled warrior. It's this customization, coupled with the impressive scale, depth and engaging story that really gave players a sense that they were making an impact on the Star Wars universe. Number 3. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Massive on-foot battles. Check. Intense aerial dogfights. Check. The ability to play as legendary characters and wreak havoc on a swathe of Doltish troopers or Wookiees. Check plus. This game took the world by storm upon its release, offering up 64-player online battles and an incredibly simple concept of base capture that lent itself to hours upon hours of tense, nail-biting conflicts. Now, I'm not here to bash the latest Battlefront, it is what it is, but I will say that it's a big disappointment to fans craving the next true installment of this revolutionary series. With Battlefront 2, the level designs were on point, the gameplay tighter than Sarlacc's Sphincter, and while the newest release is the most beautiful, it still comes a distant second to the epicness of its forefathers' multiplayer experience. Number 2. Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Very few games in the Star Wars library manage to nail the feel of a character like Star Wars Bounty Hunter does. Taking control of Jango Fett and his missile-firing rocket pack was an absolute joy, and tracking down bounties across the galaxy offered up an exciting and challenging style of gameplay. And if I'm quite honest, whipcording a target before blasting out of a room with a wrist-mounted flamethrower truly sold the idea that you were the baddest man in the furthest away galaxy from a long time ago. Number 1. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Oh, what a shock. BioWare's first magnum opus and the title that helped establish them as true kings of the Western RPG design is at number 1. It's a bloody great game! One of the best fits for the Star Wars mythos is RPG gaming in general, and letting you create your own character from scratch before throwing you into the deep end of the universe is still one of the best ways to experience Lucas's rich fiction, regardless of any medium. This game is as strong as Mandalorian armor, and contains a story which is on a whole Kessel Run above the prequel movies in terms of quality. It also gave birth to one of my favourite gaming companions in the form of HK-47, and you know what, let's just come out and say it, that mid-game plot twist was crotch-tightening goodness. And that's our list. Do you have any more great games that we could have forced into this list? Oh, please stop me. Well, if you do, then drop us a message in the comments below. And if you want to message me about my Metachlorians, then you can do so here or on my personal Twitter, RetroJ with a 0. As always, if you enjoyed the video, then like, share and subscribe for more. I've been Jules for WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.